Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another live stream show, a live show with Francisco and
Hello,
myself.
everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us as we discuss very important information, how to go to college with scholarships. We will be discussing very valuable tips. And we are adding a new section to this live shows because we want to make this more interactive. We want you guys to participate. So at the end, we will be having a small trivia session. And each week when we do these trivia sessions, the questions are going to get even harder. So definitely stay tuned for that. Make sure that you participate. And yeah, let us know where you are joining from and whether you are a parent, whether you are a student. And if you're a student, what grade are you in? If you're a parent, what grade is your student in? And yeah, Francisco, anything you want to talk to us right now before we get started with today's topics?
Yeah, basically just let us know in the comments anything you want to let us know about where you are watching from, whether you're a parent or a student. And if you can share this, that'd be of great use to us, because what we're trying to do in this first few minutes is, again, wait for more people to join these live streams. Typically it takes a couple of minutes, but the more comments, the more shares that we get here, the more of an audience that we are going to reach, and the more people that get to learn valuable information. And with that being said, we get to, again, grow, and that helps us, and y'all get to learn, so that helps you. So hopefully, yeah, you can do that solid for us, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic, today we are going to talk about something that is pertinent to everyone who is on the road to college, whether you are a 9th grader, 10th grader, 11th grade, 12th grade. Everyone cares about money. Everyone cares about being able to not just get to college, but be able to afford it. So that is the topic of today's live stream. We're going to be talking about the different types of scholarships, and we're going to be talking about exactly what you can and should be doing to become eligible for all of those scholarships. So stay tuned throughout the presentation. We are going to be covering every little detail you need to know. We're going to be having a conversation about every little detail you need to know about regarding the college application scholarship process.
All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started with the information. I do see a lot of people commenting, especially on Instagram. We have people saying that they're from Florida and they're 12th graders, New Jersey, 12th grader. We have Phoenix saying, I am a parent of a senior in high school from Long Island. Chamomile says, Texas, 11th grade student. All righty, MT Shorty, New York, parent, child, grade 11th. Cape Coral, 12th grade student. Yes, I'm pretty, tells us. Alrighty, so love the usernames, love the fact that you guys are participating, and stay tuned because we will be having that trivia session at the end. That being said, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling with today's presentation, today's topics. We will be sharing the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships available for college. So why don't we go ahead and get started? I will start with the first type of financial aid and scholarships available, and this is something that is quite relevant right now, something that is, there's a lot of movement with this specific type of financial aid and scholarships, and that is federal aid. What's federal aid? You might already know what it is. As the name suggests, it's financial aid and scholarships awarded by the federal government. And in order to get federal aid, students have to fill out the FAFSA. And I know that a lot of you, specifically my parents and students of 12th graders, students in 12th grade, may be dealing with some issues or may have faced issues in the past couple of weeks, or maybe you already filled out this form because this year, the 2024-2025 FAFSA form has been having a lot of, just technical difficulties. But in order to receive federal aid, students do have to fill out this form, which is the FAFSA. Now, a lot of people think, and this is a common misconception, that federal aid, the FAFSA, is the only type of financial aid, the only type of scholarships that they can receive and that they can win to go to college. But that is not the case. There's other types of scholarships which we will discuss in this presentation. But it's important that even if your student doesn't win any federal aid, like let's say that they do qualify, they are citizens, because in order to be able to fill out the FAFSA, students have to be citizens, residents, or eligible non-US citizens. So let's say your student does qualify, but does not win any federal aid due to several factors, because a lot of things are taken into consideration to be able to win this type of financial aid and scholarships. There are reasons why students should still be filling out this financial aid forms, because other types of financial aid, like institutional aid and sometimes state aid, does require this form in order for students to get their type of scholarships, which Francisco will discuss and explain what institutional aid is. So, Fran, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and tell us what institutional aid is?
Yes, absolutely. So, as the name suggests, institutional aid is money, scholarships, pretty much financing vehicles that come from the colleges and universities that the students will be attending. And the important thing about institutional aid that is different than any of the other three types of financial aid and scholarships available for college is the fact that when you break down by percentages, and this is something that was available in one of the previous live streams that I conducted over the last few weeks, and you look at the breakdowns as far as percentages, you will see that out of last year, the greatest amount or the greatest chunk, over half of all the money that every student received from college came from institutional awards, meaning that it is very, very important for you to go ahead and select generous institutions. And when I say generous institutions, I mean universities that have a history of satisfying. At Best College Aid, what we do with our students is we go ahead and we establish a methodology where we only apply to schools that have a history of satisfying above 70% of the demonstrated financial need of the household, right? Not all schools give out the same amount of money or satisfy the same amount of demonstrated financial need because they have different endowments. And what I mean by endowments, basically, these are funds that the college and the university uses to pay for professors, infrastructure, make investments, and among other things, give out scholarships. And if a college or a university has a history of, let's say, taking a student from a low income background, marginalized communities, but with high academic potential. That's why when you look at the Harvards, when you look at the, top tier schools, they tend to be very generous because they're able to give out scholarships to students who would otherwise not be able to go to college. And then when they do that, they go ahead and they give the student an opportunity to go ahead and get a high paying job after graduation. They don't have high dropout rates because they are giving institutional awards. Then when the student goes onto the workforce, after a couple of years, they're going to be more likely to have disposable income. So when they get a call from a college or university asking if they can give a donation, they'll be more likely to say yes to that, and that's money that goes directly to the endowments funds, and then they can use that to give out more scholarships, and it's sort of like a self-fulfilling cycle, right? So that is a little bit of a history as to why institutional aid is different school by school. But if you didn't listen to anything I just said and you just want to focus on the tangible tip, is basically go ahead and let's make sure that when we're making a list of final colleges and universities, out of the 4,600 potential options, we only go ahead and consider universities that have a history of satisfying above, again, in Best College Aid with their students, we teach them 70% or more of that financial demonstrated need being satisfied by the university. So in order to do this, the good things is a lot of universities just require you to fill out the FAFSA and send it over to them. However, there might be other forms that the school might require the students to fulfill, depending on the school, in order for them to qualify or in order for them to be considered for institutional awards, such is the case for schools that require the CSS profile, which is an additional form that does the same thing as a FAFSA. Basically, take a look at the family's finances, take a snapshot of the family's finances, and then based on their generosity, go ahead and give out awards that will satisfy the family's situation and make decisions on how much scholarships they're going to receive at the institutional level. So what is important here is pick out those generous schools, apply to those generous schools, but other than just applying, make sure that you fill out the necessary documentation, whether it's just a FAFSA, whether it's a FAFSA and the CSS profile, whether it's a FAFSA, the CSS profile in your particular situation, the university requires additional documentation, whatever the case might be, make sure that you fill out everything by the deadline as early as possible so that they can make these decisions and give you financial aid offers as they accept you or as they are receiving this information from you. And then the earlier you get this information, the more you can compare financial aid award packages and then do the things that we teach our students as at Best College Aid, which is to negotiate or see if you can get a reconsideration scholarship. But that is a very long, very extensive, but hopefully very clear explanation as to what institutional awards are and how to get them.
Alrighty, so in case you just joined us, we are discussing the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships, and Francisco and I just discussed the first 2, which is federal aid, and Francisco just talked about institutional aid and scholarships. Now, I do want to let you all know that all of the tips, and specifically the things that we're discussing in this presentation at the moment, we go in depth, more in depth in the free training in the link in our bio. And if you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, in the link in this video's description. So make sure to register to watch this free training. It's a free resource that we have for you guys. So don't forget to check it out. Alrighty. So why don't we go ahead and share the 3rd type of financial aid and scholarships available for students in the United States. And this is private scholarships, right? This is a very important and a type of scholarship where the funds are very, very large. And when it comes to private scholarships, there has to be some strategy behind the applying, the searching, and the overall, process of applying and getting private scholarships. Francisco was able to get private scholarships, and he went through, we both did, but he went through a specific process in order to win this scholarship. And inside of Best College Aid, we do teach exactly what students should be doing to maximize their odds of getting private scholarships, because while there's a lot of private scholarships available, they also tend to be very, very competitive. So in order to have a bigger chance or a bigger opportunity to win private scholarships, students should be very strategic when applying for these types of financial aid and scholarships. So private scholarships, like the name suggests, come from private sources. So it can be individuals, churches, it can be organizations, it can be businesses. So Coca-Cola has a private scholarship foundation program. Univision, Telemundo, CBS, people like individuals, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Scholarship. There's churches, Catholic churches, Christian churches, there's even just Mormon. A lot of Mormon people do get scholarships if they decide to go to school, specifically schools like
BYU.
Yes. What's it called? Sorry.
BYU.
BYU. Sorry. I thought you said DYU. I'm like, what? Yeah, BYU. BYU is a school that a lot of people go there with scholarships, and they are, given by their church. So this is just an example. There's a bunch of private scholarships available for students based on that come from different sources. So it's important to be constantly looking for and constantly applying for private scholarships. This, when it comes to private scholarships, the cool thing about them is that they are available for students in different parts of the process. So it's not like federal aid that students have to wait until senior year to fill it out. Students can start as early as middle school to look for and apply for private scholarships. Obviously, scholarships for middle schoolers private scholarships might be a little more limited, but it's always a good idea to be constantly looking and applying. That's the beauty of private scholarships, is that students can be looking for one and applying to one at any time of the year, because there's scholarships that are open. The open period is in the summer. There's others that are winter scholarships. There's others scholarships that are open all year long. So there should be a specific process, a specific strategy behind applying for private scholarships, which we will discuss after Francisco shares the 4 type of financial aid and scholarship available for students in the U.S., which is state scholarships. So Francisco, why don't you go ahead and take it away and explain what state scholarships are?
Right. And I also want to take a little bit of a step back and explain that every type of scholarship that we've discussed as of lately, or in the past 3 points, federal, private, and institutional awards, are given out to students for one or of 2 reasons. They're given out by financial need or they're giving out due to merit. When I say merit, there is academic merit, there is extracurricular merit, there are basically any sort of prowess that the students can accumulate inside or outside of the classroom could result in a merit-based scholarship, right? And for example, when we were talking about the FAFSA, things like the Pell Grant are based on the family's financial need. But when we're talking about institutional awards, there are scholarships that are given out by the institution. Yes, some by financial need, which is what I was talking about earlier as far as the generosity of the school, but also based on merit. How many AP classes did the student take? How many volunteer hours did the student have? How does it align with the university's specific institutional award merit-based scholarships? Sorry. When we talk about private scholarships, like Laura just did, you could have the merit of having written the essay, but in order to qualify, you would have to be like a STEM major, or you would have to have some sort of pursuit or some sort of accumulated credit or accumulated merit, whether inside or outside the classroom, that could make you eligible for that private scholarship. So with that context, kind of taking a step back and explaining it, when we talk about the fourth type of financial aid and scholarship, which is state-sponsored programs, a lot of these will be based on merit. And what state scholarships are basically programs that each of the 50 states has set up and are in place within their specific state to give money to students or potential students who will be attending to college within that state. In the most part, or for the most part, they will have requirements that are based on residency and how long you've been living there. And then they might also have merit-based requirements. So for example, in Florida, we have Bright Futures, where in order to qualify, there are the residency requirements of how long you must have lived in Florida before going to college in Florida in order to be eligible to receive. And then on top of that, to get the full amount, you would need to have above a certain GPA, SAT, ACT scores, right? So it's important to look at the policies and the criteria in your particular state. And if on top of that, they also require you to fill out the FAFSA plus any additional state form, because they might require you to do the Florida, whatever form, or the Connecticut, or the, for the TASFA, or for the Cal Grant, or for the tuition assistance program in New York, they might require, again, different states might set their own different criteria as far as eligibility requirements and forms that have to be filled out, right? So what we recommend right now is to just check out the state where you're living. If you plan to go to college within that state, Google the requirements and make sure that you fill out everything you need to fill out and that you're on track to be eligible to receive that. Because at the end of the day, what we teach our students since at Best College Aid, our members know, okay, let's go ahead and let's make sure that we're as eligible for as much amount of financial aid and scholarships so that we can combine federal aid, the Pell Grant that we received here. Maybe we're being offered work study. Maybe the university grants us the presidential scholarship for XYZ accomplishment. Plus, on top of that, we're staying within our state, so we qualify for this state-sponsored program. Plus, we apply to this Comcast scholarship or this relocation committee scholarship or whatever other private scholarship here. And then all of a sudden, we're summing up all these different types of scholarships and financial aid. And then on top of that, we're negotiating with the universities that are accepted us and that gave us or offered us institutional financial aid packages. We're negotiating based on what other schools gave us, and boom, all of a sudden you are being very, very competitive with what you are having at your disposal or what you're being offered, and you minimize what has to come out of pocket to cover those expenses, right? So that is a very summarized version of what the financing process looks like. Obviously, inside Best College Aid, we go more in depth, but for the sake of this show, we wanted to do a little breakdown. We wanted to quickly go over the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships, the basic requirements for them, and how you can, again, at the end of the day, what we want you to do is to make yourself as eligible for as much amount of scholarships as possible. And that's what hopefully you got out of this.
Exactly. So hopefully that was clear for you and insightful. I do want to go ahead and go into the speed round where I give you tips to win private scholarships or to maximize the odds of winning, because a lot of private scholarships, it's not necessarily a gamble, but it is, they're very competitive. But there are things that students can do and things that we explain to our students inside of our clients, inside of Best College Aid, that they can do in order to maximize their odds. And we have seen results. We have had a lot of students who have won private scholarships. So why don't we go ahead and share those with you? first tip is to stay organized. Private scholarships and private scholarship applications are not as, I mean, they're not super hard. It really does depend on the private scholarship program, but they tend to be a lot of work. A lot of them have different processes. Some of them are simple, depending on the scholarship type. There are, for example, maybe photography scholarships where students have to submit a portfolio. There are scholarships that students just have to write an essay or multiple essays, and they just submit the essay with their a separate link with their resume. There are scholarships that do require interviews. So it really does depend on the scholarship program. So our tip is to stay organized, to have a spreadsheet. As a matter of fact, our members inside of Best College Aid, and if we have any members watching us at the moment, this is kind of like a reminder. You do have access to a downloadable spreadsheet where you can basically organize yourself and list all the scholarships that you are applying to, private scholarships, and know step by step what part of the process you have done, what's missing, when the deadline is. And it's just kind of like a template for your students to stay organized in this process, because it's not only applying to scholarships. There's, the research process, looking up which scholarships does the student qualify for, because not every student qualifies for every type of private scholarships. There's scholarships that have specific requirements based on ethnicity. Some of them are for only students of Hispanic heritage. There's some for, Native American students. There's scholarships for students who practice a specific sport, or who, for David, won a scholarship that literally, it was called the Relocation Scholarship. And this was for students who had experience relocating, maybe moving. And he talked about his experience moving from Mexico to the United States. And this was such a specific scholarship. I believe it was around $1,000. And he had to write an essay about relocating. And that was such a specific scholarship that not every student has had that opportunity. But if your student has had an opportunity like that, there might be a scholarship for them. So definitely stay organized, do your research. My second tip is to use those search engine tools like FastWeb, like Unigo, like Scholarly, scholarships.com. Those will be your, best friends when it comes to looking for private scholarships, because there are thousands of scholarship programs, private scholarship programs available in the United States. And these tools do facilitate that search process. And my third and final tip is to go local, go smaller. Big scholarship programs, though they are amazing, and you should still apply for them. You should still apply for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Scholarship. If you're Latino, Hispanic, the Hispanic Heritage Fund, is that what it's called? Heritage Foundation. There's a couple of big scholarship programs for Hispanic students. Those big programs for sure apply. The awards tend to be very, very large for those scholarship programs. But there's smaller applications, smaller scholarships, like the one that David won, the Relocation Scholarship. You won a scholarship from Comcast, which you can talk a little bit about. But that was what, $1,000 or $1,500?
I believe it was between $1,500 and $2,000.
Yes, and that's like, I would say that's like a medium award. But there's scholarship programs programs for that are just $200, $500. But don't think, okay, I'm not going to apply to any smaller awards, because a lot of students think that way. And there might not be as competitive as those big awards. And it's better to apply to a bunch of smaller scholarships and maybe win a lot of smaller awards than to only apply to the big ones that are more competitive and that students across the nation are applying to, and then not getting any of them. So definitely be strategic when applying to private scholarships. I don't know if you want to add any bonus tips for maximizing the odds of receiving private scholarships.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of extra things. Number one is don't stop applying to private scholarships when you stop being a senior. You can continue to apply to private scholarships as you go through college. As a matter of fact, it's very much encouraged. It's one of the few periods of your life, I always say this, where you might be awarded a couple $1,000 for writing an essay. So go ahead and take advantage of that and continue to apply to private scholarships. Number two, if you have a counselor at your high school, there is, which you should, regardless of how available and how much help they've been, sometimes, as we've talked extensively, with the national average being around 450 high school counselors per student, they don't necessarily have the infrastructure, even if they have the best disposition to go one-on-one with the students. That's why we created Best College Aid. That's why we do lives like this. That's why we have the free presentation, the link in my bio. But regardless of whether they are the greatest or not the greatest, or they know your name or they don't know your name, what I recommend also is it doesn't hurt to go to their office, send them an email, and ask them if they have a database or some sort of list of private scholarships that students from within your same high school or county or district have acquired over the past few years. And that is a very quick way to go and go beyond and speedway through and away from all the noise and the unreliable scholarships and go straight to the ones that are proven to be received by students with a similar background, or at least within a similar community as yours. Actually, as a matter of fact, my private scholarship for college came from a recommendation from my high school counselor based on a scholarship that someone within my high school had received during the years prior. So these sort of recommendations are a goldmine of effective leads in terms of scholarships that might pay off more than just a random one that you find on these search engines. But if you go to search engine route, or when you do go that route, be extensive and just keep on applying. Again, a few periods of your life where you're going to get a scholarship based on writing an essay, right? So those were my additional recommendations as far as private scholarships. Now we are going to move on to some trivia. Laura has some questions, and I have some questions that we want to ask to see if y'all were paying attention, or maybe throughout these questions, these are questions that you didn't know that you had yourself. So just to make sure that you get the most value out of this conversation. And if you didn't, then you can go out and check out the free training in the link in our bio. But yeah, we're going to do this quick little trivia and hopefully engage with you a little bit more and then answer some questions.
Alrighty, with that being said, why don't we go ahead? We did not discuss this in this presentation, but we're still going to ask this question because maybe you should know this by now, hopefully. And if not, you will learn the answer. So the first question that we got for you, and you can answer in the comment section and then we'll reveal it. Just like a fun way to engage with you guys. Alrighty. So AP classes are classes that are considered honor level classes, A, honor level classes, B, college level courses, or C, regular courses. A, honor courses, B, college level courses, or C, regular level courses. All right, let's see what we get in the chat. We will see some of your answers, and Francisco will do the honor of, saying the answer.
Yes. So I see Nelsie.Ross saying B, Mira Dawn 09 saying B, Daily saying B, Phoenix saying B. Everyone's saying B. So yes, as a matter of fact, AP level courses are college level classes. Here's the catch though. You can be mastermind and do really, really well on these courses. But if you don't pass the AP exam at the end of the year, you will only get the GPA boost, which is great. I mean, you want your weighted GPA to be as high as possible. But at the end of the day, we also want the additional benefit of getting that high score on the AP exam so that you can, number one, potentially receive merit-based awards, because some universities give merit-based awards based on the number of APs that the student has, whether they are an AP scholar with distinction or an AP scholar period. Whereas, and then obviously the additional benefit of not having to take, Chem 101 or Physics 101 while in college. You can save time and effort and credits doing so and taking those APs, all right? So the next question that we have, and this is something that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, it has to do with the forms that you need to fill out specifically for institutional aid. And as I mentioned, you have to fill out the FAFSA regardless, because that's mandatory for the federal aid, and schools require it to make decisions based on their institutional awards. But as far as the CSS profile, this separate form that more intently assesses the family's financial makeup, is it true or false that every school requires and that you have to fill it out to receive institutional awards from every school that you need to that you'll be applying to in order to receive institutional aid? Again, true or false, do you have to fill out the CSS profile for every school that you'll be applying to in order to get institutional aid?
Yes. So in other words, every college, the statement is every college requires the CSS profile. True or false? Alrighty, let's see what we get in the comments.
Camila saying false, Phoenix saying false, Gabrielle saying false. Okay.
Alrighty.
And that is on Instagram.
All right, one more time. True or false? Does every college require the CSS profile? Are you guys ready for the answer? The answer is false. Not every university requires the CSS profile. As a matter of fact, what's the number?
It's around 400 schools that might require the CSS profile based on their university policies and how they make decisions or how they assess the family's financial standing beyond what the FAFSA tells you or tells them. Here's the catch though. If they require you to fill the CSS profile, they're not just saying, oh, send us the CSS profile instead of the FAFSA. Go ahead and fill them both out. You have to send them both, and then they'll make those decisions. It's either just the FAFSA or the FAFSA and the CSS profile. Never neither. Never just the CSS profile, right? So that's the way it works there. And again, just take it the time, 30 minutes, 1 hour, however long it takes you. The FAFSA, it's a bit simplified to hopefully be quicker despite all the mistakes and the whole Pandora's box that we could talk about or that we have talked about before this year. Hopefully it'll be fixed by next year. But FAFSA should take you not more than 20 minutes. CSS profile, our members inside Best College Aid get a tutorial fully fleshed out that gets renewed every year. And that's something that, again, doesn't take them more than an hour if they're following that. And the potential gains, $1,000 that you could unlock on institutional aid, it's worth it. Bang for a buck. The amount of time you put in with the potential awards is worth it. And worst case scenario, it's not like college is going to get more expensive for filling out this form. You don't want to, it's better to fill it out and not get as much as you hope for than be eligible to receive a bunch of money that you don't ever get because you didn't fill out these forms, right? So that is as far as the CSS profile.
Alrighty, so final question. And this one, if you paid attention in the presentation, you should know the answer to. In the comment section, list the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships available in the United States. So what are the 4 types of financial aid that we discussed in this presentation? List them out, and we will see if you guys really did pay attention in the live stream, or if you just joined us, you might know the answer. And if not, we will give you the answer so that you learn them and know what they are. So the 4 types of financial aid and scholarships available in the US.
And I want to make a distinction based on the comments. There are 2 reasons why you could get a scholarship. You could get a scholarship for your financial need, and you could get a scholarship because of your merit. So merit-based scholarships or need-based scholarships. So that would be the answer, or those would be the answer to the question, what are the 2 reasons why you would get a scholarship? What Laura is asking is the 4 sources or the 4 entities, the 4 conglomerates, institutions that could give you money for college. And that was a hint right there. So what are the 4 sources of money for college? I'm going to go ahead and give it a few more minutes. I see some comments coming in, but yeah, not whether it's the reasons why these entities would give you money, whether it's because of your merit, academic or extracurricular, or your financial need based on your parents' finances. But again, the 4 entities that could give you money for college, right?
How about we give them 2 of them and then they can guess the other 2?
So the first one and the one that I consider an inside Best College Aid or methodology to be the most important because national average last year, it was over half of all the money that people got in the shape of scholarships and grants came from this type of money. That is institutional aid. So money directly from the colleges and universities that the student applies to. Obviously, you want to apply and become eligible to all of them, but picking a generous school is the fastest way to avoid, or the first step to avoid, going into student debt. All right, so that's one. The other one is the probably, I don't want to say the most popular, but certainly the one that has been breaking the news the most this year, and that is federal aid, money that comes from the federal government, and that's what most people tie directly to the FAFSA form, the free application for federal student aid. So those are the two that we're giving out, and I'm gonna go ahead and read some comments. Camila said merit-based, in-state aid, and financial aid. Almost there. You got some of them. You got state aid, which was one of the two that we were missing. I see that W. Fellis said federal, state, institutional, and private. Yes, we have a winner. Yes, that is correct. Gabriela, FAFSA, private, state, and institutional. FAFSA, basically, yeah, from the federal government. So yes, those are the four sources or the four entities that could give you money for college, with whether it's because of your merit or your family's financial need. The federal government can give you money because of your financial need. That's why they ask you for information about your taxes. Institutions can give you money based on your financial need and your merit based on their own particular policies, whether it's because they have a generous financial aid, generous financial aid policies, or because they have particular, presidential scholarships or stuff like that that they offer students for their merit inside or outside of the classroom. And then federal, state sponsored programs, they can give out scholarships for students who have above a certain SAT or ACT score or a certain GPA. So that would be the case for state awards. And then private scholarships, they set their own rules. They could give them to students with need. They could give them to students with merit, a little bit of both. You just have to go through their particular processes to be eligible to receive these private scholarships that are administered by these private entities.
Alrighty, so hopefully you like that little trivia section. And the reason why we're laughing is our dog just came in barging in, and he has a cone because he had surgery this weekend. He's doing fine, but he walked in and we looked over and he has his cone on, and I wish I could show you, but he's on the floor and I'm not supposed to carry him.
Yeah, in any other circumstance he would be right on the table right now, but yeah, little buddy just had surgery, so we can't pick him up.
Alrighty, so that basically concludes the presentation and the trivia portion. Fran, why don't we go ahead and answer some questions that we had in the social media. Let's see, we have a couple of questions. What's going on with me today? Questions on Instagram and
Yes.
I mean YouTube and Facebook.
I have one from Phoenix 51475 saying, can you get merit-based awards without taking AP courses? Yes. So depending on the different entity that is giving out these awards, they might set their own sort of criteria. But yeah, merit-based awards could come from academic merit, as we discussed, certain GPA, certain number of AP classes, although you're asking for merit that doesn't include that. But it could also come from extracurricular merit, if you're a student athlete, or if you're someone who is applying for a particular private scholarship that is derived on how many volunteer hours, that has a volunteer hour minimum, or maybe the university itself offers particular scholarships to students who throughout high school had X amount of volunteer hours. Again, these different entities can set their own procedures. Some private scholarships might have their own requirements as far as, we're only offering this scholarship for students who want to study business, or who have had their own small business throughout high school, or who have done XYZ thing inside the classroom or outside of the classroom, or taken this exam, or done above a certain score on the SAT or ACT. So yeah, merit-based awards are not exclusive to AP or advanced placement merit. They could be any sort of thing that enables you to demonstrate that you did something. That could be, depending on the entity and the scholarship type, considered a merit-based award. All right.
Great question. We have a question from Wendy Wofford asking, how do you negotiate an awarded college scholarship amount with another school? So basically, how do you renegotiate a financial aid award package? And this is something that we did discuss last week, but happy to answer this question because it is quite relevant at the moment. A lot of students might be receiving their institutional aid awards. As a matter of fact, and this is a great time to mention it, students who apply for the FAFSA or have been able to, or still trying to, this past week, the student aid gov or the federal government basically decided and announced that colleges are not going to be they're not going to be sending out to colleges the students' FAFSA profiles until early March. So this is actually something that will affect financial aid award packages. Wendy, I don't know if you have a senior, but if you do, and if you do qualify for the FAFSA and if you have sent it out, a lot of students have received some of the institutional aid that is that is merit based. So there are students who have been notified, yes, you got accepted here and you got this presidential scholarship, but we're still waiting for your FAFSA because we still haven't gotten it, because no schools have gotten it because of what's going on with this whole FAFSA debacle. So I will answer your question in a second, but I did want to clarify this. Colleges will not be getting those FAFSA profiles, those student profiles, until early March. So this will and could affect a student's financial aid award package. So maybe if your student got accepted and has a financial aid award, or they were notified which merit-based scholarships they got, this could change. I'm not saying it will, but could change once they receive the FAFSA. Now, when it comes to negotiating financial aid award packages, every school is different. Every school has a different process for students to ask for a reconsideration scholarship. My school was an email. You had to write an email, very well worded, and there was certain things that you had to include in that email, and you had to basically, you have to negotiate your financial aid award package. You have to say, listen, I really want to go to this school, but this other school is giving me more financial aid. But I really want to go here, and this difference in money could make the difference between me going and me going somewhere else. And we do, inside of Best College Aid, we do have a section where we explain how to renegotiate a financial aid award package successfully. There's some schools that have, like an application. Students have to go to their website and fill out the application, but they still have to write the reason why they need to renegotiate. So hopefully that answer helped you, sorry. So yeah.
And the last question that we'll be answering comes from Instagram. I'm basically combining a bunch of different questions. Basically, what I'm being asked is AP classes versus dual enrollment versus an ACE diploma. And basically, when you are deciding between which advanced university course load your student is going to be engaging in throughout high school, there's a couple of factors or a couple of things that we recommend to our students inside Best College Aid that they take into consideration. Number one, if they already know where they are going to be applying to college, or they have a list of prospective schools, they could simply go ahead and look at the university policies as far as what credits they accept. Typically, and most schools are pretty general with the amount of credits that they take in or that they accept. However, it doesn't hurt to confirm that if you take an AP class, you have to shoot for this score, whether it's a 4 or a 5 on the AP exam, in order to receive that credit. And if you're going to be taking a dual enrollment class, is it just enough to get a C, B, or an A in the class in order to receive this credit? So going ahead and confirming with the specific university is a great first step to decide, oh, well, this school would accept this program, but it wouldn't take or it wouldn't accept credits from this program. So that is option number one, or criteria number one. Criteria number two that will affect this decision will be to simply go ahead and see or get a review from who the teachers and the professors are going to be in charge of these classes. If there is only one AP Chem teacher at your high school and they are known to be, very great at getting their students to pass their AP exam, and they have a passing rate of 95% and all their students get good grades, and it's a magical place where everyone thrives, then you know that might be a safe bet compared to going into a dual enrollment class with a professor from a partner school that you might not know. But if you know that throughout your high school, the AP teachers are not necessarily stellar and they don't have a good track record of getting their students to pass the AP exam, and you have friends who have engaged or who have gone through dual enrollment at the partner school at your high school, then looking or listening to their testimony would be a great starting point to make that decision. And then finally, the last recommendation to decide between an AP program, between dual enrollment, will be to basically look at the student's learning style and look at the student's track record, whether they are an elite test taker despite or irrelevant of their performance as a student in terms of homeworks or projects, or if they're a better student than they are a test taker. And the reason why I say this is because, again, as I mentioned earlier, with AP classes, at the end of the day, they have to take an AP exam that will assess or that will determine whether they get that college credit or the potential to transfer that credit into a college or a university. And if they get nervous and they're not a good test taker, this might not be as good of an alternative as if they're a good student who just happens to get nervous during tests, because they could go to a college level classroom, take those courses and thrive, do well, do their homework, do their projects, maybe take quizzes here and there, but not necessarily get as intimidated by one final exam that is make or break it. So keeping those considerations in mind when deciding between the two options will help you find something that is tailored to your particular student. The last thing that I want to say about this and about resources and considerations for you to have is that if you are watching this and you had questions that either were answered and you want to know what else you don't know, or what else you could confirm what you already knew, or you just want to get a free resource to help your students out, as Laura mentioned earlier, we do have a free presentation that I prepared. Basically, I spent a couple of weeks researching the latest admitted students data and coming up with a methodology. And it's similar to the chat that Laura and I just had for the last hour, but more dense, pre-recorded, scripted out, so that it can be more, instead of less than a conversation, more like an exposition of, okay, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. It's very, very valuable. Obviously, I'm biased because I worked hard on it, but you can go ahead and check that out. It is in the link in my bio. And full transparency, it's an hour and 20 minutes. So you can go ahead and register for it, take an hour and 20 minutes of your time. The last 15, we talk about Best College Aid, what it includes. We add a discount for those of you who are interested in joining Best College Aid, which is our college advising program that goes from as early as middle school all the way to life in college. So if you're interested in learning about that, you can tune into the last 15 minutes of that presentation and you will get 50% of the program for having stayed till the end. If you're not interested in that, you watch the first hour and 5 minutes and get a ton of free value and a presentation, like hopefully like this conversation was, can be an asset to your students' road to college. All right. So that is a free resource that's available to you all that I highly, highly, highly encourage you to check out.
Alrighty, so make sure you register to that free training. The link is in this video's description if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook. Link in our bio if you're watching on Instagram or TikTok. I hope you found this presentation valuable. I hope that you learned a lot. We will be back next week. Maybe I'll see you inside the training. Maybe I'll see you inside of Best College Aid. And if you do decide to join and take advantage of all of the amazing benefits all of our members have just for joining Best College Aid. And well, we will see you again next week. Have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And we'll see you next time.